Have you ever wondered how a sea, once the fourth largest in the world, could almost completely disappear within a few decades? Let's embark on a journey to Central Asia, to the Aral Sea, or what's left of it. Nestled between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, the Aral Sea was once a significant body of water, teeming with life and sustaining communities with its bountiful resources. In its prime, the Aral Sea was an ecological marvel. It supported a flourishing ecosystem and a booming fishing industry. Its waters were a lifeline for the biodiversity it housed, and its banks, a source of livelihood for thousands of people. Economically, it was a hub for trade and commerce, with its abundant fish stocks driving a thriving fishing industry. This vast, lively sea was an integral part of the region's identity and economy, but now, it's almost gone. So what led to the dramatic transformation of this once thriving water body? The answer lies in the decisions made by human beings. The root of the disaster traces back to the 1960s, a period of ambitious Soviet planning. The Soviet Union, in its quest for economic growth, had a vision: transform the arid desert regions of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan into thriving cotton farms. Cotton, often referred to as white gold, was a lucrative crop, and the Soviets saw an opportunity to expand their economy and establish a robust agricultural sector. The plan was grand, the ambition boundless, but there was a challenge: water, or rather the lack of it. The desert regions were parched, and cotton, being a water-intensive crop, needed a substantial supply. The solution, the Soviets believed, lay in the two mighty rivers that fed the Aral Sea, the Amu Darya and the Sir Darya. The Soviets embarked on an ambitious project: the construction of a vast network of canals to divert water from these rivers to the cotton farms. The scale was immense. Hundreds of miles of canals were dug, redirecting the life-giving waters away from the Aral Sea and towards the thirsty cotton fields. The Aral Sea, once the fourth largest lake in the world, was reduced to a mere afterthought in this grand design. In theory, the plan was sound. It promised economic prosperity and agricultural abundance. But in practice, it was a disaster waiting to happen. The Soviet engineers, in their haste, overlooked a crucial factor: the delicate balance of nature. The Aral Sea and the rivers were part of an intricate ecosystem, and disrupting this balance would have severe consequences. The consequences of this massive diversion project were not immediately apparent, but the seeds of disaster had been sown. The Aral Sea began to shrink, slowly at first, then at an alarming rate. What was once a vast, vibrant sea teeming with life was now on the path to becoming a barren wasteland, a stark testament to the short-sightedness of human ambition. And as the sea shrank, the problems began to mount, problems that would soon escalate into a full-blown ecological catastrophe. As the years rolled by, the impact of the diversion project began to surface. The rivers feeding the Aral Sea, once mighty and robust, were reduced to mere trickles, their life-giving waters rerouted to quench the thirst of distant cotton fields. The Aral Sea, once the fourth largest lake in the world, began to shrink. The sheer volume of water diverted was mind-boggling. Imagine the equivalent of 100,000 Olympic swimming pools being drained away every single day. That's the scale we're talking about. The Aral Sea didn't stand a chance. As the sea shrank, the salinity levels began to rise. The Aral Sea, which originally had a salinity level close to that of the oceans, saw its salinity levels skyrocket. The increased salt concentration proved too harsh for the sea's delicate marine life. Fish species began to die off one by one, unable to tolerate the increasingly hostile environment. The sea, once teeming with life, became a watery desert. Fishermen, who had made a living off the bounty of the sea for generations, found their nets coming up empty. Entire communities, built around the sea's plentiful resources, were left high and dry. The sea that had once been a source of life and livelihood was now a source of despair. The Aral Sea's decline was not just a local disaster, it was a global one. The loss of such a significant body of water had far-reaching impacts. It disrupted weather patterns, impacted migratory birds, and even altered the local climate. By the 1980s, the Aral Sea had lost about half its volume, a catastrophic loss that was about to get worse. The once mighty sea was now a shadow of its former self, a sad reminder of the devastating impact of human intervention. As we move forward, it's important to remember the story of the Aral Sea, a stark warning of the irreversible damage we can cause when we tamper with nature's delicate balance. The degeneration of the Aral Sea didn't just affect the sea itself, but also the surrounding regions. Its transformation from one of the world's largest lakes to a dry, barren desert has had profound effects on the local climate, agriculture, and public health. The local climate has suffered a significant shift. Once known for its moderate temperatures, the region has now become prone to extreme weather conditions. Summers are now hotter, winters colder, and the land drier. The moderating influence of the sea is no more, and the harsh continental climate has taken over. Agriculture, a lifeline for many in the region, has been devastated. The fertile lands once nourished by the sea are now barren, salt-encrusted wastelands. The loss of the sea and the resulting climatic changes have caused the death of once thriving crops. Farmers, who depended on these lands for their livelihood, are now left grappling with the harsh reality of a desert where a sea once was. But the impact goes beyond the environmental. The public health crisis that has emerged is alarming. The dust from the dried-up seabed, laden with pesticides and other chemicals, is carried by the wind across vast distances. This airborne toxic dust has been linked to a range of health problems, including respiratory diseases, cancers, and high infant mortality rates. The socio-economic impact on the local communities has been profound. The loss of livelihoods, the health crisis, and the drastic change in their environment have left the people of the Aral Sea region in a state of despair. The vibrant communities, once thriving on the bounty of the sea, are now struggling to survive in an unforgiving desert. The Aral Sea disaster serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences when humans try to manipulate nature for their own benefit. It's a tragic tale of how a grand plan for progress turned into an environmental and humanitarian catastrophe, a tale that we must remember as we make decisions about our planet's future. While the damage done to the Aral Sea is irreversible, it isn't completely devoid of hope. As we move forward, it's important to reflect on the lessons learned from this environmental catastrophe. Efforts to mitigate the disaster and restore parts of the sea are underway. The Koch Aral Dam, built in 2005, is one such initiative aimed at increasing water levels in the North Aral Sea. Although it's a drop in the ocean compared to the vastness the Aral Sea once held, it symbolizes the beginning of a long journey towards restoration. Simultaneously, the planting of saxaul trees on the seabed has been effective in reducing sand dust storms, a small yet significant victory for the local ecosystem. These actions, while commendable, are just the start. The road to recovery is long and fraught with challenges.